Today it gives me, oops, we gotta do the meeting recorded. Today it gives me great pleasure to introduce Shari Liss, who is the Executive Director of the Semi Foundation. Shari received a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics from UC Santa Cruz, just over the hill, and a Master of Science Mathematics from the State University of New York, Albany. Her path began in education and teaching. So, from working as a high school math teacher to piloting an alternative high school for at risk students, teaching college calculus, yay, that was a very influential course for me, developing mathematics programs to serve both gifted and challenged students in the Bay Area. From 2000 to 2019, she worked at Ignited, moving from the role of education manager all the way to CEO. And at Ignited, she recruited, trained, and placed more than 400 educators in summer fellowships at top companies for transformative professional development that grew the Bay Area's STEM talent pool and workforce pipelines. Since becoming the executive director of the Semi Foundation in 2019, Shari is responsible for driving the Semi strategic initiatives for workforce development, providing leadership to the Semi Foundation with programs that build the global electronics industry talent pipeline. And she's also responsible for leading Semi's diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Shari has been named a Woman of Influence in 2017 by the Silicon Valley Business Journal for her longstanding service to the education and nonprofit community. So please join me in welcoming Shari Liss. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for taking time and choosing to be on another virtual meeting. I know that's a lot of commitments. I am going to share some slides with you guys before I jump in and make sure everything is working. So let's share. We don't need sound on this. Share. Okay. Hopefully you can see my slides.
We see it. It's not in slideshow. There it is. Okay. Yep.
Oops. Let me go back. Okay. And then I'm going to clear this so I can see. All right. Well, thank you so much for having me and for giving me this opportunity. My name is Shari Liss, and my current role is as Executive Director of the Semi Foundation. And the Semi Foundation is a global organization that focuses on workforce development and diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives for the entire microelectronics industry. I'm going to dig into what that means and what that work is all about a little later in this presentation, I promise. But first, what I wanted to do when I was asked to present today, I really thought a lot about how I would want to talk about my story. And in thinking through the story that I wanted to tell, I landed here. I wanted to talk about how I built a multi-dimensional life as a leader. That's sort of where I landed in my thinking. I feel like this often gets overlooked when we look at leadership, especially in the tech world. We're taught that you can throw yourself into just kind of one thing. And if you choose your career, that's kind of the focus and that's that. But as a female leader in this space, I really wanted to paint a different picture, a picture of what has been possible for me and what I hope others see as possibility. So I thought I would start by sharing my story, my path, my journey, and then a little bit about my job, my current role, what I do at Semi, and why the work is so very critical in my view. Also, I wanted to share why I'm so proud of the path that I've created while also feeling very humbled by the journey. And I guess the journey itself is just not always what you necessarily expect. So with that, my path, I want to start by saying that it's definitely not linear. And as a mathematician, I can say that it is not linear. And although I'm using slides to paint the picture that are clearly a linear path through this talk, the path itself is certainly not. There are twists and turns, there are fears, and there are moments that are very overwhelming, but there are also incredible successes, and not to mention also failures along the way. But for all of us, it's our own journey, our own path. And as a female leader in Silicon Valley, I've been a CEO and an executive director, and things aren't always smooth, but there are incredible and amazing moments, and there are powerful stories and amazing mentors and opportunities to mentor along the way. So we're all building our own path, and today it's exciting to share mine with you. So how did my path start? My journey, my personal journey has always somehow been centered around mathematics. I'm a total math geek through and through. I always saw the beauty in the subject. I always loved telling other people about mathematics, and that love of this subject started when I was only 8 years old in the 3rd grade. I just knew, even at that time in my life, that it was my thing. I loved numbers, I understood them. And I always taught my poor 3 brothers what math was all about, much to their chagrin, but I loved sharing that knowledge. And it was an early and consistent passion of mine from when I was a kid. That same year, even in 3rd grade, as an 8-year-old, I actually began to tutor other kids. Kids would meet me before school. My teacher set up a program that I could help with their basic understanding of mathematics. I was so in love with doing that, that other kids liked to learn from me, and it was a really fun opportunity for me. I also sat in on my brother's after-school advanced math classes. He was in 6th grade at the time. And then I started helping the 6th graders too. It felt so fun, and it was so connected and made so much sense to me. So I got it and I loved it, and it has permeated and persisted throughout my life. Some teachers along the way, however, weren't always so supportive. Girls don't need to know math. I heard that a lot. That's a boy thing. I also heard that a lot. That's not for you. So I caught myself stopping, raising my hand sometimes, and I started to feel self-conscious when I could answer questions. I would stop, I would be quiet. And that felt awful and frustrating to me. I wasn't good at everything, but math was always really me. And then when I got to high school, this incredible thing happened from my life. I had this incredible math teacher who chose to believe in me, who supported my learning. And it was exciting to find that mentor in my life. He pushed me to take AP classes. He pushed me to learn my 3rd year of calculus at a local community college while I was still in high school. And it was awesome that he was able to put me back on track. I kind of came back out of my shell with it and my love for math. And those mentors, you know, if I can say anything, I think mentors are so incredibly important and critical in our lives. Those people that help along the way, you should always be looking for them. So that led me, you know, with his support, with my family's support, my parents' support, you know, that led me into my college career. It was really obvious for me when I got to SUNY Albany that I was going to study mathematics. It was the thing that I learned, you know, all the way through. It always was the thing that I loved. But the thing that I learned when I got to college was I also loved philosophy. So I'm kind of a weird mix. So I actually got degrees in both mathematics and philosophy, and I could talk forever about how those two intertwine. But that's not really what today is about. And then I went to grad school for math as well, did my master's and actually my PhD as well. It was so clearly my passion, that subject, but those same issues that I experienced earlier reared their head again. I was the only girl in so many graduate level mathematics classes. I had to work harder to prove myself and to prove that I was worthy. That's at least how it felt. It's a stereotype like so many others that shouldn't permeate. And it's there, and there were so many times that I had to remind myself of who I was. I had to look for those mentors, look for those lights in the crowd, those people who believed in me and didn't believe in the stereotype. But I did it, and I got the degrees. But remember I said that things aren't always linear? Well, there were multiple degrees, but at the same time, there were other bits and pieces that worked their way throughout the journey. Along the way, and between the degrees that I got, and even while I was taking classes at night, I was always teaching. I actually taught middle school math, of course. I taught high school, and I even taught at the university level. Actually found myself teaching at New York University for a number of years. Over the years and throughout my career, regardless of what I was working on, I always found ways to engage with students, to tutor, to teach night classes. I really love teaching math, and I love finding ways to make that subject come alive for kids and even adults who want to learn. I was often tasked with developing new sections for the university, new ways to spark interest in students who had previously avoided math or had been afraid of it. And I certainly had experience in that, like being told it wasn't the right thing or trying to find other pathways to learning this. So I really enjoyed that teaching and that part of it. And even to this day, I still do. And like I said at the beginning of this talk, there are multiple dimensions to any leader. There are pieces that don't always get to shine through when you're running a company or when you're leading. So music is another really critical part of my life. I've always played piano. I learned young and played classical music. I joined a band in college and I played at clubs throughout New York City. I would play night gigs and then get up and teach in the mornings. There were facets and elements that build who we are and feed the other parts of our lives. And music has been one of those for me. Those passions are still critical and they need to keep those alive. And you need to find and remember what feeds you, even while going after the big jobs. I still play shows, even running this global foundation that I do. I still find time for music, even virtually now in this last year of the pandemic. So I was teaching, I was playing music, I had finished multiple degrees, I was loving math and learning and sharing that with kids. And then I decided to take a step back and to take a breath, to explore. I hadn't really taken a break. School, into college, into teaching, into graduate school, while teaching, while playing music. And then I thought, I've never been anywhere. So I took a break to travel. I did this on my own. I went to 17 countries and I actually sang on street corners to get enough money to stay in hostels, which is funny to think about now. But you'll be surprised to know that teaching actually doesn't pay all that well. So that was how I funded that trip. Lots of singing and lots of connections out in the world. So I took this time as a moment to reflect on my life. What is it that I wanted to do next? And I spent over 2 years on my own exploring. It was an incredible part of my life, and it gave me time to reflect, to regroup, and to figure out what was next. And then I came back to the United States. It was in the height of the boom in the Valley here, which is definitely going to make me date myself. A friend called me with a job offer to be a software engineer at a small startup in Mountain View. You know math, you can do it, she said. I didn't know computers, I didn't know coding, I knew math, and it was theoretical math that I studied at that. But it was something I could try, a leap of faith, and I jumped in with both feet. The first day was brutal. I walked in and I was told, set up your computer, your email, and start reviewing the code, and I had no idea what any of that meant. I had no idea what I was doing, but I learned and I researched and I worked hard and I eventually got the hang of it. I also learned that I missed being in the field of education. This job was interesting and it had its moments, but I really missed that feeling like I was impacting on some scale, like I was making a difference. And then I stumbled onto my next gig. I found an organization that puts STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math educators into paid industry projects over the summer. It was a way to show teachers how the subjects they were teaching were actually being utilized inside of companies. It was a way to marry industry and education that I thought was the smartest thing and the smartest mission I had ever heard. How, as a math teacher, do you answer the question, how are we going to use this when you've never seen how math is used inside of a company? I'd learned so much at that small startup that I wished I had known as a math teacher. So I joined Ignited at that time as a content developer. And I was there for many years. And I learned and I grew in my roles. I moved into the education director position and eventually became the CEO. It was a career path shift for me, from educator to leader. I learned so much, and being a female leader in the Valley is a whole other level of challenge. Always proving yourself to industry partners, always being asked about my background and training, but I succeeded in this role and I had several mentors and supporters along the way. Our work at Ignited focused on workforce development and started to shift to incorporate diversity, equity, and inclusion as critical elements of the work as well. How do we reach students who are underrepresented in the STEM fields? How can we make a difference? So this became another area of focus and growth for me personally. My years at Ignited were incredibly powerful. I grew into myself as a leader. I learned so much from my board of directors, my industry partners, and the many educators that I worked with along the way. It was a really awesome experience. Oh, and remember I said earlier that the path is not linear. So it's messy and windy and interesting all the time. And this was part of it too. This beautiful being that entered my world. So as a mom, a CEO, an educator, a leader, I wouldn't say that it's easy, but it's possible. I also wouldn't say that there are no trade-offs. It's tough to do it all. There are moments that I've missed, but there are also moments that I get to cherish as well. I was told so many times, you can't do all of it, Shari. And you know what you can, and you know what? You can do whatever you put your mind to. You can thrive and persist and build. And this little munchkin is actually 10 now, but he killed me. If I put a more recent picture up of him, he actually told me no. He sees his mom as a leader. He brags about my work to his friends. And he even selected me as his hero on a school project. When he surprised me with that one in front of his school, I completely fell apart in a good way. I'd been so programmed to think that I was hurting him by also focusing on my career, that it was amazing to know that he sees me in this way. I don't say any of that to brag, honestly. There's so many humbling moments, but I do say it to show that there are ways to create the life that you want. There are ways to find allies and mentors and a path that works for you. Okay, but I'm not done. I'm still on this path. And at this point in my life, I realized how amazing it would be to grow my impact in the field of education, on workforce development, and on looking at diversity, and that looking at diversity was quite powerful and important as well. Remember that I had shifted from teacher to ignited to building into a CEO, to impacting a few classes worth of students, to impacting hundreds of educators, and over time, millions of students. But it was at that time, after almost 20 years with Ignited, that I made a leap, another leap of faith, into another field to explore, to learn, and to grow. A field that was again new to me, an area where I could again grow my impact, grow my work, and blossom, hopefully. So I chose to join an organization called SEMI. For those of you who don't know, SEMI is a trade association with over 2,400 member companies globally. SEMI supports the microelectronics and the semiconductor industry. It's a powerful association that spans 7 global regions, global impact. Now that's exciting to me. So SEMI oversees standards for the industry, runs all the Semicon shows that you've probably seen around town, supports global advocacy for the industry, among a zillion other things. But what's the biggest concern facing this industry? Well, given the fact that you've been listening to me for a few minutes now, you can probably guess at this point what that is. Workforce. Not only workforce, but a diverse and innovative workforce. The tech industry struggles and competes all the time for talent, but the semiconductor industry, the microelectronics industry needs real help in this area. How do we compete with the Googles, the Facebooks, the Amazons, the LinkedIns of the world? When students drive down the street in the Valley, they know Google, they know Facebook. But when you pass applied materials, not everybody knows what they do. Multi-billion-dollar company, but we're unknown. So SEMI decided to create a foundation to focus on this work, to focus on workforce development and diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that's the SEMI Foundation. The SEMI Foundation is tasked with developing workforce development and diversity programming on a global scale. Man, count me in, I thought. So here's the thing, talk about impact. Talk about making a difference in the world of education, in workforce development, and in diversity, equity, inclusion. Here's an industry, 2,400 member companies that need these programs, need this support, and need new ideas. A way to harness the collective energy of those doing great work in each individual company and spread best practices across the industry. Here's the role for me. So I grabbed it, executive director at the SEMI Foundation. And here I am. I'm 18 months into this work, and we're creating programs. We're building awareness. My team is developing initiatives, writing grants. It's really exciting work. But again, here I am, a leader in a STEM company, in a STEM field, a female leader in an industry that has some work to do on that front. We acknowledge the need as an industry, but have a ways to go. So to bring my current work to light, I need to shift gears. I need to sift away from my own personal journey. And I think it's important now to talk about, for a few minutes, about the programs that we actually run at the foundation. You've gotten to know me a little. So what do I do with all of that interest, all of that passion for this work, connecting education and industry, and what am I building as a leader in this space? So I'm going to talk about a few of our initiatives. One of our largest initiatives is to address the biggest challenge that we face as an industry, the microelectronics industry, which is attracting, developing, and retaining talent. So we've launched a very large industry image and awareness campaign. This work is intense and meaningful and will hopefully reach millions of potential students and potential employees for our field. We're building a documentary series about the industry, elevating stories about women, veterans, people of color. We're building a career pathways website, looking at the skill sets, interests, career opportunities, and what's possible within our industry. We'll be doing extensive outreach and have connected with more than 250 universities through this work already. We're hoping this awareness, the pull from diverse communities, this storytelling will light a fire, will make a difference and get people excited about the work, the opportunities, the career paths, and the life that this job can afford. From the diversity perspective, we also know that women and people of color are widely underrepresented in our industry. They face systemic barriers that start at grade school and continue through each individual's professional journey. You'll remember that I have even experienced some of this firsthand, both as a girl in math classes and later as an educator, a coder, and a CEO. This is not only a significant problem from a social justice and equity standpoint, it hurts our companies and our industry. It limits our innovation, our productivity, our competitiveness, and our profitability. We don't want or need these limits. We're trying to reverse this trend. It's a priority and it will need to be a systemic change throughout the entire workforce pipeline. So we've launched several different diversity initiatives. We're building a diversity roadmap and toolkit for our member companies that will come out this quarter. We're hosting virtual events globally, including panel discussions and hard conversations about both gender and racial equity. We've already had 5 events just in 2021 alone. We're seeking funding to build both gender and racial equity programs that will dig deep into communities that were hit hardest by COVID to upskill and reskill potential employees. So this work is incredibly critical and very, very exciting personally to me. On another front, we have a program that's been running for many years called High Tech U. This program takes high school and now college and university students, as well as educators, into member companies for 3 days to learn about the industry, to do some hands-on engineering design projects, to excite and engage students in the STEM fields. This is powerful work, and it's already reached thousands of students and educators. We're currently looking to scale the impact of this program, to take it to more industry partners, to work with our members across the globe, and to offer programs virtually in this new world of ours. We've also launched veterans initiatives, well, actually several veterans initiatives, looking at how to engage soldiers on careers available to them as they transition from their role serving the country back into civilian life and civilian careers. We hold industry introduction sessions, job fairs, internship opportunities within our member companies, and we match service careers with careers in our industry. Veterans are another powerfully diverse and strong population that needs support in finding the right next steps in their careers and their journeys. We're hoping to help during that transition, but for the soldiers and veterans themselves, we're also talking to our member companies about how to look and fill really important roles with these folks that are transitioning to civilian careers. We also provide mentoring programs for university students to connect with industry professionals. We have speed mentoring opportunities and also work with our member companies to provide support for mentoring within their own campuses, so new hire employees can be matched with those who have more experience. This is a really powerful tool, a wonderful way to learn, to get to support. Having mentors and sponsors, as I've mentioned a few times, is powerful and critical to career success in my mind. We also hold events throughout the year and around the globe, events and panel discussions on diversity and workforce development. We hold workforce development pavilions at all of our Semicon shows, and the pavilions are open to students for free, actually, to learn about the industry and about job opportunities within. We're actually going to be hosting a very large workforce pavilion and job fair at Semicon West this year, which is in San Francisco in December. And it's being held at the Moscone Center in the city. It'll be our first, hopefully, major face-to-face event since the shutdown in early 2020. We're really hoping it could be face-to-face. That is the goal. We also incorporate diversity and workforce topics into all of SEMI's events in the US and in Korea, Taiwan, Europe, China, Japan, and Southeast Asia. Each region is different and each message has to shift to meet the local needs. But the need for more diversity and workforce development is there, across the board and global. The SEMI team is also working to launch the SemiWorks and SemiCerts programs and portal in 2021. The portal is a powerful tool supporting training and retaining talent. It'll align with the industry and awareness work that I mentioned earlier. It also aligns with the advanced manufacturing competency models with jobs, employees' skills, and available trainings, courses, and content. For companies, we'll offer a job board, online job fairs, veteran connections, and a learning management system. For individuals and for students, there will be skills assessment, career pathways, skills alignment to current trainings and jobs, and opportunities to build industry credentials. For colleges and training partners, the portal offers a pathway to program alignment and semi-certification. We're consulting with all of these groups regularly to enhance our initial version of the portal, and we'll be making constant improvements as we go. This is definitely a work in progress. So I'm going to take a deep breath. None of this work could happen without strong support network along the way. I've mentioned that a few times. We rely on others to build us up, whether it's our own parents, our families, our teachers, our mentors along the way, or even most importantly, our own teams. I couldn't have done all of this work, all of this very meaningful, at least to me, work without all of those people. I couldn't have made the moves that I made without relying on the people that I trust, without seeking advice, input, ideas. I spend a lot of time brainstorming with folks, brainstorming with partners, learning from others, reading books about leadership, about career choices, about where and how to drive towards success. So my closing thoughts on this part of the talk. So I wanted to tell you a story about one person's journey, and it's my story, my journey, and I hope to have a few more interesting chapters to add before I'm done. So some things to keep in mind, as I've said so many times in the last 20 minutes, mentors, get one, get two, get as many as you can. They're critical to success. People love to put barriers in front of you. I don't know why, but I do know that you can leap over them or just bust right through them or challenge them. It's your journey. It's your path to success, however you want to define that. So find the people who say, yes, you can, and listen to them. Find an area that you love, but continue to explore different aspects of it. There are multiple dimensions to your career, to your journey, and to your life. I think what I've done, my path, my journey, my learning and experiencing the goods and the bads, the successes, the challenges, and the failures, and there have been plenty of those along the way, have made me not only a better person, but a better leader. And if that's the journey you want to take, then I say go for it and don't let anyone stand in your way. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing these. Don't know if you want me to take a pause or a breath. I could share videos as well about the work. So Cheryl, I will follow your lead.
Oh yeah, so maybe if you'd like to just put the video up that you had showed beforehand, that would be great. And then that would give you a chance to take a pause, get some water.
Yes, I forgot to have water near me, which was my mistake today.
Yeah, I have some. I wish I could share, right?
I know, right? I think that's going to be the next technology. We're going to be able to pass things through this portal. All right, so I'm going to share a video about Semi, about the company that I'm working for. Let me find it. Oh wait, before I share it, I have to do the sound. Okay. So if I make that big, let me know if you can't hear this.
Imagine a world where the possibilities are endless, where everyone can participate and everyone can prosper. A world where how we live, how we learn, how we work, and how we play are all transforming. This is the world we live in now. A connected world where every part of our lives is advancing faster than ever before. Where cities are becoming the centers of learning, culture, careers, and rising economies that enhance our lives. At the speed of digital, innovation is transforming our planet. From smart factories to space exploration, from virtual medicine to energy alternatives and sustainable farming, from cutting-edge medical science to the world's most advanced semiconductors. We are redefining technology to make our world a better place. Led by networked intelligence, social media, mobility, AI, IoT, and big data, we have entered the fourth industrial revolution, and it is disrupting every industry, every country, and every life for the better. At Semi, we serve the ecosystem that helps to make the digital world possible. We provide opportunity to increase industry engagement through our technology communities. We hold big conversations to represent the collective interests of our members on public policy. We help make technology safer to ensure industry can operate in a sustainable manner. Our research provides insights into the leading markets to explore opportunities. And we accelerate digital innovation through the creation of standards that increase industry efficiency. Our collective connectivity drives growth and paves the way to our mutual success. And together, we fuel endless possibility. Semi. Together, we are reshaping tomorrow. Imagine a world.
You don't need to see it twice. So a bit about who Semi is in this world and the industry itself. We're in everything. Semiconductors are in everything around you. And it's been really exciting and interesting work. So thank you so much for letting me share, for sharing my story. And then I'm happy to answer questions or continue the conversation however you'd like to go from here.
All right, great. So at this point, we can open it up to questions. So students, if you want to come off mute and ask a question, that's fine. Or if you want to put it in the chat, that's fine. Oh yeah, Lisa just put a note in there. So I have quite a few questions, but I'll start with one. So I'm wondering if you see opportunities with the current challenges around the supply in the semiconductor industry, and as far as increasing awareness about the importance of the industry and the opportunities. And I'll use a personal example of my daughter who wants to build a gaming computer and can't find, she wanted to buy the components. And can't find any GPU standalone GPUs out there.
Yes.
And yeah, so she's very aware now.
it's actually been an incredible thing the last few months, because with the shift in administration as well, there's such a focus on the semiconductor industry right now. The executive orders that are coming out of Biden's office with respect to building and bringing manufacturing back to the United States to try to work on the shortage that's going to be around for some time. I mean, get your car now is my advice. But I think what it is doing in quite a big way is driving awareness. And that's why we're harnessing and trying to take advantage of that and build this awareness campaign right now. Because not only is that supply chain issue going to continue to be a challenge for the United States and really the entire world, but at the same time, our companies are growing at magnificent speed to try to meet the demand and to try to build. So the workforce need is just accelerating and exponentially growing as well. So I think between the executive orders that are coming out, between being in the news all the time, and then when it starts hitting more personally, like when you can't get a tablet or a phone or a car because there's a chip shortage, people are going to start becoming more and more aware of how prevalent we are in literally everything that you see around you at all times. It's good for us in some ways because it'll drive workforce towards our industry. It'll drive awareness towards our industry, but there are some really big hurdles that we have to get over. You know, but some of the largest companies in the world are going to be building fabs back in the United States in the next year. Arizona, Boston, and Texas are the three main areas right now. And so how do we staff those huge fabs when we haven't been training in those areas is a big question on my mind right now. But absolutely the awareness is growing in a big way because of all of that.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course.
All right, a quiet group today, so maybe I'll jump in with one other unrelated.
I just wowed everybody, you know, they're like, oh. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, feel free, students, again, raise your hand and we'll call on you, or if you want to put it in the chat. But my other question, unrelated to the semiconductor shortage, is you talked about how you really grew as a leader during your time in Ignited. So that was a good long time in the same organization. So I was wondering if you could share a few experiences that that you had while you were there that were part of that growth.
Sure. Oh my gosh, which ones do I pull on? I think, you know, when I started at Ignited as a content developer, when I first got in there, I was still in educator mode. My role is teaching, my niche is math. I know math, I know how to develop content around that. I know how to bridge industry and education. As I moved up in the company, first into education director, I had to start interacting with industry folks. And that was very new for me. And I think I really learned about building partnerships and establishing relationships as being so critical to being successful as a leader. And that was so different than anything I'd ever done. I was so comfortable with students. I was so comfortable with other educators. And then all of a sudden I had to go into meetings with CEOs and CFOs and COOs. And I was like, who are all these people? And then you realize that they're human beings and that building relationships and building partnerships are really based on transparency and trust and understanding. And it took time for me to feel comfortable in those moments. And I think that was one of my largest learnings, that you have to embrace that partnership development as being critical and being successful pretty much in any role that you establish, but especially as a leader. Another piece that really stood out for me along that lens was when Obama was in office, I got to participate in the White House's STEM pocket of people that were looking at how to approach workforce development. And that was terrifying. It was like another moment in my life where I was like, what do I know? Why am I going to the White House? And again, it was sort of, I think, a learning there. Maybe I even saw a question pop up. about what advice I would give, I think it's really becomes about trusting yourself. It becomes about believing that you have so much to offer and kind of quieting the other voices, and both critics outside of you, but also within ourselves. You know, I think people suffer a lot from imposter syndrome. I mean, I was nervous coming on here today. We carry that as human beings. And it's really important to remember that we can be successful and thrive in pretty much any environment. We have the ability to do that. And it's quieting our own fears and then walking into the White House and being able to add something to that conversation and sort of embracing that we all bring our own individual lens to every conversation. So those are a couple of moments from that. I also got to speak at a number of very large events while in that role. That was my first ever, talking to hundreds or thousands of people at a time, and just learning that I'm capable of doing that and getting in front of an audience. And I knew enough to be a leader. Like I could add value to those conversations, and that was a big learning. Oh, I see a Semicon West.
Yeah.
Question. Should I jump to that one, or do you have other?
Sure, I'll read it. So how can a student get the most out of attending Semicon West for the first time?
So Semicon West is an exciting thing. So the Semicon shows are these huge trade association shows, and there's usually about at least 1,000 semiconductor companies, microelectronic companies that come and showcase what they do. So the show floors, it can be super intimidating, right? There's a million different people to talk to, but it's also a really exciting way to see and engage in the work. So the Semicon show is 3 days. It's free to students. So I would suggest, like, one day you just go in and talk to people and learn about the companies that are there, learn about the technologies. And then the Workforce Development Pavilion will have one day that solely focuses on university students. And people can come into that day. There will be a job fair where our company members will be there representing the jobs that they have open, whether they're internships or actual entry-level positions for university students. And you can actually come and set up interviews on site at Semicon West and talk to folks there. We'll have another day. The third day will be actual hands-on experiences with the technologies that are being built across the field. So it's a lot to take in. So I think breaking it up by day, to answer Lisa's question, like come and just explore the show floor. Even for me, the first time I went on the show floor, I was like, oh my God, there's so much. But then you just sort of, take that breath, as I talked about before, and engage where you can and learn about all the crazy facets of this field. The technologies are huge. I mean, there's medical devices, we're in cars, we're in every phone, every tablet, every computer, every appliance. The field is huge, and it's fun to just sort of see what's out there. So engage for a day, come do some of the hands-on activities with us in the Workforce Pavilion. And then, talk to some folks about the jobs that are available, or attend the job fair if you're interested. Just bring some resumes as a side note. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, great suggestions.
Thanks.
All right, other questions from students?
I'm really easy, I promise.
Yeah, and there also is no quiz at the end of this, please.
Right.
I
might do a math test, but no, I'm just kidding.
I'm going to take Charlie's question and flip it. So what advice might you have given your own self when you were a student based upon your experience now?
Oh my goodness. I think I would probably tell myself not to have stepped back when I did. I felt defeated early in high school. I think it was when I entered, maybe it was 8th and 9th grade, when I started to feel that girls shouldn't be doing this. Don't talk over the boys. The boys know STEM. I'm dating myself. It's probably not that bad anymore. But at the time, that's what it was. And I did take a step back when I was probably 14-ish, which is a hard age to begin with. So I think I would probably let myself know that it's okay to be who you are in all of this, and to sort of embrace all the pieces of who you are and to thrive in what you love. And I think there were moments where I questioned that along the way, and I wish I hadn't. So that would probably be my advice. I guess another thing is that I wouldn't feel defeated as a female trying to take on leadership roles in the Valley, because there are moments of that too, is the truth. As a female running a nonprofit like Ignited, you know, when you're talking to CEOs of these major companies, it can be really intimidating and you question yourself. There are moments, you know, and I know that's not when I was a student, but I think looking back, I would give myself the strength to not doubt my own strengths, to not doubt my own ability in those moments, that I'm quite competent and capable of doing that too.
Yeah, I think it's really, I appreciate your acknowledgement of those feelings.
They're important, right? And they're real for all of us, I think. Probably not limited just to women, it's just my experience. But yes.
Yeah, and I think it also calls out the importance of the roles for teachers. You know, so I think about my own journey and having a really strong woman chemistry teacher in high school, and then two women math teachers along the way, and then boom, now I'm a chemical engineer by training. So I wonder, right?
Yes, I think there's huge influence in that. I do.
Yeah, so here's a great question. You were lucky to know and recognize your passion early on, so math and then teaching, and then also some other passions with other things outside your actual day job. What advice do you have for students who are still trying to find their passion?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's really about exploring and learning. You know, when I went to undergrad, I knew math. You're right. I was very lucky to know that. But I also took the time to explore. I took the philosophy classes and the sociology classes and the art classes and the music classes. And I think it opened up other facets for me, even though you're right, I did have this one focus that really rang true for me, but it did open up all these other opportunities. And even now in my life, when I think about it, you know, jumping into the microelectronics field, so not my area of expertise. And here I am running this global foundation. So I think it's always about exploring and learning. I don't think there's ever a stop to that part. So whoever asked that question, I think just dabble and learn and explore. You have this incredible opportunity to figure out, you know, what fits you. So if you're still in school, like take classes across different fields and see what resonates. I know that's hard. It's probably easy to say that and much harder to do, but that would be my advice.
All right, yeah, this is really good. Oh, so another question around travel. So do you have travel advice for our engineering students and if we've got students who are in other parts of the campus?
Travel advice?
Yeah, you did that a little bit later.
I did. I have to be honest though, I got sent, this is terrible to share probably, but I will just share it. I got sent to a math conference in Berlin as I was finalizing my PhD to give a presentation, and I didn't come back. So I had never traveled, and I got to the conference and I realized I had never really been anywhere. And that's what kicked off that crazy couple of years. And I didn't have any, it was hard because I didn't have money saved and I didn't really have a plan. I just kind of, it was a different era too. We certainly weren't in a pandemic moment in life and you could travel and it was safe. You know, not always perfect as a woman traveling alone, but, you know, safe enough. And so what advice would I give? I guess don't do it that way. don't necessarily go to a conference and never come home. Not everybody loved me for that decision. But, you know, even the internships that we're finding in our industry are also allowing for some travel. So maybe that's an opportunity. You know, I'm happy to share my email with the students that are here. If you want to reach out, there's some opportunities that are kind of bubbling up in the industry. And there's some hope of bringing some interns into companies this summer. And maybe not, it really depends on how the pandemic flows, but there's also opportunity to travel through that. And I don't mean just in my industry, I think in a lot of industries, that's a possibility as things reopen. So that's one way to think about it. And I'm happy to connect some folks with resources on that, if that's helpful.
Yeah, great. I think folks would really appreciate that.
And then, you know, your rail passes and cheap tickets and things like that would be the other advice I could give you, but I'm not sure that's what you were looking for, Lisa.
Yeah, I would just also add, because I think I found myself in a similar position in graduate school, realizing I hadn't really been too many places, but I also would want to stress that it's not necessarily how far you go, but maybe how different the experience is.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and so if you think about travel as a broadening experience, you can stay inside the Bay Area and you can learn if you're open when you move around and experience new things. And I think that that's really travel. That helped me feel better when my friends were, never having been anywhere in America, were jetting off to Europe, on their credit card and coming back in debt and crazy things like that. So, yeah.
Yes, that's really important advice as well.
All right, great. So any other last thoughts from students? All right, so maybe at this point, hearing none, I want to thank Shari again for joining us. We definitely want to just stay on the line with you. There could be some additional follow-ups, and if you want to put your email into the chat, feel free.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. Here, let me put my email is here. That's right, I can't see it, yes.
Yeah, we've got it.
Really, anybody feel free to reach out. The Semicon shows are coming. We're also going to be having a bunch of university programming that we're launching in the next couple of months for folks who want to engage. And thank you so much for your time, really.
All right, great. Thanks, students, and for all the students.